What happens when your entire war plan depends on a letter that ends up in the wrong inbox? It's June 207 BC, somewhere in northern Italy, near the Metaurus River. The Second Punic War has been raging for more than a decade, and Rome is not having a great time. For years, Hannibal Barca has been stomping around southern Italy like he owns the place. Trebia? Disaster. Lake Trasimene? Disaster. Cannae? Ultra disaster. Rome is still alive, but only because it refuses to admit defeat, like that one stubborn friend who keeps saying, "It's fine, I've got this," while bleeding out. But tonight, our main character is not Hannibal. It's his older brother, Hasdrubal Barca, veteran of Spain, proven commander, and now the guy with the most important side quest in the entire war. March from Spain, cross the Alps, link up with Hannibal, and crush Rome between two Carthaginian armies. Easy. What could go wrong? Hasdrubal has already done the hard part. He survived Spain. He crossed the Alps with less drama than his little brother, no elephants, less snow, fewer cinematic speeches, but he got through. Now he's in Cisalpine Gaul, raising local allies, rebuilding his army, and waiting for one thing: coordination. So he writes a letter. He sits down and lays out the whole plan: where he is, where he's going, where Hannibal should meet him, march routes, rendezvous points, the big "let's finally win this stupid war" button. And then Hasdrubal does what every general does when they absolutely need secrecy. He gives the letter to some random messengers and hopes for the best. Somewhere out there, between Hasdrubal's camp and Hannibal's, these messengers are about to make the single most important delivery failure in ancient history. Somewhere on a dark road in central Italy, Hasdrubal's messengers are doing their best, totally not suspicious impression. Rome by this point is paranoid. After Cannae, they've learned a hard lesson. If Hannibal is in your country, always assume something terrible is being planned. They're patrolling roads, watching river crossings, and grabbing anyone who looks even remotely Carthaginian chic. The messengers get spotted, chased, and arrested with all the subtlety of a bad heist movie. The Romans do a little light interrogation, this being ancient warfare. That phrase does not imply gentle conversation, and soon they're holding Hasdrubal's beautifully detailed strategic fanfic. They open it. Inside is everything: Hasdrubal's current position, his direction of march, his plan to meet Hannibal somewhere in Umbria, and the terrifying prospect of two Carthaginian armies high-fiving over Rome's corpse. Now enter our Roman main character, Gaius Claudius Nero, consul, battlefield veteran, and man with permanent "I haven't slept in 3 days" energy. Nero is currently facing Hannibal in the south with his own army. Not attacking because that would be suicidal, but watching, staring, hovering like an anxious neighbor who's sure you're up to something illegal with your backyard barbecue. He reads the letter. He realizes that if Hasdrubal and Hannibal link up, Rome is finished. Not "this is a setback" finished. Not "we'll regroup and try again next season" finished. We're talking game over, thanks for playing, credits roll finished. So Nero makes a decision that no cautious, sane Roman general should make. He's going to leave Hannibal. He will take a hand-picked force, the best troops from his army, march them north at terrifying speed, and help the other consul, Marcus Livius Salinator, ambush Hasdrubal before the brothers can ever meet. It's bold. It's reckless. It's career-ending if it fails. And it's about to become Rome's most vital roll of the dice. So, how do you abandon the most dangerous general on the planet without letting him notice you've bailed? Step 1. Pretend you didn't. Nero calls his officers. He doesn't sugarcoat it. "We're taking picked men and marching north," he basically says. "We're leaving Hannibal here with what's left. If we mess this up, Rome dies and I get blamed. Questions?" The officers are not thrilled, but they understand. There isn't a safer option. There's just risky and we all die. Nero strips his army of its best units: the veterans, the cavalry, the heavy infantry that actually knows which end of the spear goes into the enemy. The leftovers, under subordinate command, are told to look busy. And that's where the trick comes in. The remaining troops keep the campfires burning, the tents up, the noise level high. From Hannibal's vantage point, it looks like Nero's whole army is still there, glaring at him as usual. Meanwhile, Nero and his picked force are already speedrunning Italy. They march day and night, covering brutal distances, armor clanking, sandals slapping, legionaries mentally composing angry complaint tablets to the gods. Every mile they travel north is a bet that Hannibal won't realize what's happening, at least not until it's too late. Up north, near Sena Gallica in the region of Umbria, the other consul, Marcus Livius Salinator, is already facing Hasdrubal's advancing army, and he's not thrilled about it. Salinator has history. He's older, grumpier, and once got into political trouble over taxes. He's not exactly the let's gamble everything type. Now he hears Nero is coming, and bringing half an army that technically belongs somewhere else. When Nero finally arrives in the north, dusty, sweaty, but very much alive, the two consuls meet. Two commanders, two egos, one absolutely critical fight. They need to decide how to crush Hasdrubal before Hannibal even realizes what's happening. When Nero arrives in the north, he doesn't exactly walk into a warm welcome. Salinator's first thought is not, "Ah, my heroic colleague." It's more like, if this goes wrong, they're blaming me too. But there's no time for a consul slap fight. Hasdrubal is nearby with a serious army, hardened Spanish and African infantry, Gauls, and cavalry. If he breaks through here, he can still reach Hannibal. So the two consuls have to do the hardest thing for Roman aristocrats: cooperate. They come up with a deceptively simple plan. Keep the combined Roman force looking like one army. Hit Hasdrubal so hard he never even learns the word rendezvous. To keep the numbers secret, Nero doesn't raise new standards or banners for his men. They just blend into Salinator's army, like unpaid interns sneaking into a corporate staff photo. The Romans move closer to Hasdrubal. Camps are built, lines are drawn. The usual ominous "we might all die tomorrow" atmosphere sets in. Hasdrubal looks across the field. He's not stupid. He sees Romans, lots of Romans, but how many? He doesn't like the answer his instincts are giving him. Night falls. That's when Nero decides to pull one of the boldest moves of the war inside his own battle line. He realizes the terrain on the Roman right is too rough to bring his men into full contact. So, under cover of darkness, he takes part of his force, marches them behind the Roman line, and stacks them secretly on the left, ready to smash into Hasdrubal's flank at dawn. Hasdrubal, from his side, hears movement in the night. He has no idea that the odds are quietly shifting from tough fight to congratulations, you're about to be the main course. Dawn creeps over the Metaurus River. It's sometime in June, 207 BC, and Hasdrubal wakes up with that special commander's intuition. Something feels off. He looks across at the Roman lines, shields glinting, standards waving, the usual "we're going to kill you in the name of the Republic" vibe, nothing obviously new, no extra banners. No giant sign that says, "Surprise, we have two consuls now." But Hasdrubal can tell the energy is different. Roman drums sound more numerous. Their line seems thicker, denser, like someone hit copy-paste on their maniples overnight. He doesn't like it. Hasdrubal has options. He doesn't have to fight here. He could fall back, look for better ground, try to reevaluate the situation. In some versions of the story, he actually does start pulling back, trying to retreat across the Metaurus and avoid a pitched battle he suddenly doesn't trust. Unfortunately for him, the terrain is not on his side. The river is tricky, the fords are confusing, the paths are narrow. Moving a whole army, with baggage, cavalry, Gauls, and heavy infantry in the middle of all that, it's like trying to parallel park an elephant. By the time he realizes how jammed things are, the Romans are already advancing. On the Roman side, Livius Salinator attacks frontally with his men, fulfilling the noble Roman tradition of go straight at the enemy and hope the gods like us today. Meanwhile, Nero's secretly repositioned troops are massed on the left, ready to slam into Hasdrubal's flank. Hasdrubal forms up his line as best he can, Spanish and African infantry in the center, Gauls making up part of the army, some on difficult ground, cavalry on the wings where possible. It's not a bad deployment if he weren't about to be strategically mugged. The battle begins. Javelins fly, shields clash. Roman and Carthaginian soldiers slam into each other in a chaotic mess of spears, swords, and aggressive yelling in multiple languages. Hasdrubal still thinks this is a normal fight. He's about to find out it absolutely isn't. At first, the battle looks manageable. Hasdrubal's center, his Spanish and African veterans, is holding its own. These are professional killers. They've fought Romans before. They know how to trade blows, fall back in formation, and not panic every time someone screams. On the Roman side, Salinator's front line is doing the classic Roman thing, getting stuck in, grinding forward inch by bloody inch, refusing to admit that dying might be an inconvenience. But the real horror show isn't in the center. It's on Hasdrubal's flank, where the terrain is broken and clumsy, and where the Gauls are jammed into awkward positions. Their formation can't properly deploy. They're on uneven ground, half stuck, half turned the wrong way. And that's when Nero moves. He hurls his concentrated force straight into Hasdrubal's vulnerable flank. The Gauls are hit from the side, not in a nice orderly battle line, but as a tangled mass smashed from an angle they are absolutely not prepared for. It's like getting rugby tackled while tying your shoes. Panic starts to spread. Hasdrubal's center can hold, his cavalry can fight, but once that flank starts collapsing, the entire line begins to twist, buckle, and fold. The Roman advantage in organization and discipline suddenly matters a lot more than Carthaginian imagination. Nero's men push harder, screaming, shields locked, driving the Gauls back into their own allies. Meanwhile, Salinator's Romans in the center feel the enemy line wobble and do what Romans do best, double down. Suddenly, what had looked like a tough, even battle turns into something far uglier. A grinding, chaotic collapse. Hasdrubal, somewhere in this mess, starts to realize that this isn't just a bad matchup. Something is wrong with the numbers. There are too many Romans. Hasdrubal was not Hannibal's reckless counterpart. If anything, he was the more cautious, methodical brother, and you can almost see the thought process on his face as the battle comes apart around him. Wait, this isn't just Livius. Who else is here? He realizes, too late, that the worst-case scenario has happened. The letter was intercepted. The Romans moved. The relief army is outnumbered and outmaneuvered. 2 consuls are here, their armies combined and layered. There will be no link-up with Hannibal. No great brotherly reunion. No crushing double hammer blow to Rome. Only this river, these hills, and the increasingly doomed remnants of his army. Ancient sources differ on the exact details, but the end is clear. Hasdrubal dies in battle at the Metaurus. Some imagine him charging into the thickest fighting, refusing to flee. Others see him caught in the collapse, dying in the chaos like so many of his men. Either way, he falls not because he was incompetent, but because Rome finally got its act together and executed a genuinely brilliant, high-risk plan. Around him, his army dissolves. The Gauls break and run. Spanish and African infantry die where they stand or try to retreat through the bottleneck terrain. Roman cavalry hunts down fleeing units. The battlefield turns from structured clash to one-sided slaughter. By the end of the day, Hasdrubal's relief force is gone. Not weakened, not damaged. Destroyed. The second Carthaginian army, the one that was supposed to tip the scales once and for all, has simply ceased to exist. Now we arrive at one of the darkest, most brutally symbolic moments of the entire war. The Romans, being ancient and extremely extra, decide that simply winning the battle is not enough. Hannibal needs to understand what just happened. So, they send him a message. Literally. According to tradition, Hasdrubal's severed head is thrown into Hannibal's camp in southern Italy. Imagine the scene. Night in the south. Hannibal's veterans doze around campfires, armor stacked nearby. They've been waiting for years, bleeding Rome, holding territory, trusting that eventually reinforcements will come from Spain, from Carthage, from somewhere. Then a sack is tossed into camp. The sentries open it. Realization spreads like a shockwave. Hannibal walks over. He looks inside. In that moment, he understands everything. The letter failed. The Romans moved. The relief army is gone. No second front, no massive joint offensive, no hope of real victory. From here on, Hannibal is stuck in Italy, isolated, with no realistic path to actually winning the war. He can still fight battles, still outmaneuver Roman commanders, still terrify the countryside, but strategically, Carthage's best chance is dead on a field by the Metaurus. The Battle of the Metaurus doesn't get the same cinematic glamour as Cannae or Zama. There are no elephants, no Alps, no legendary encirclement that fills entire textbooks. Just a stolen letter. A desperate forced march. 2 consuls swallowing their pride. And a brother who never arrived. But in strategic terms, This is the day Rome didn't die. The day the Hannibal nightmare stopped being an existential threat and became a problem that could be managed, contained, and eventually defeated. Rome will still suffer, men will still die, the war will drag on, but from Metaurus onward, the momentum tilts one way, toward a republic that refuses to stay dead, and a Carthaginian dream that quietly, painfully runs out of time.